If you're enjoying Pigoted Podcast, why not sign up to our Patreon? You can get access to loads of extra stuff. You get access to extra episodes every single week. You get access to giveaways that we do. We've done giveaways on rum, giveaways on NFTs, loads of sponsorship stuff. You get access to the Discord community. You get early access on episodes that are being released. You get to ask questions to our guests. There's loads of extra stuff that you get, and it starts from just £1 a week, £4 a month. Think about it this way. Would you miss an episode of Pigoted if we didn't release one? Yeah? Well, would you miss £1 if it went out of your bank account? No? Well then, get yourself signed up to our Patreon, because by supporting the podcast, you're helping to make it possible. You're helping to pay for all of the recording space and all of the equipment. So please, if you do enjoy the podcast, check out the Patreon. You get loads of extra benefits, and a big thank you from me. Enjoy the podcast. This week's podcast is brought to you by Window World. Window World are the home of rock bottom prices on all of your UPVC windows, doors and conservatories. Right now they're doing a very special deal where you can get 8 windows and 2 doors for only £2,495. So if you're thinking about getting new windows or doors, if you want to upgrade yourself for 2022, then get yourself down to windowworldupvc.co.uk or give them a call on 0151 531 0056. That's Window World, the home of great quality windows and doors. Welcome to Pigoted Podcast. Joining us today is comedian Chris Kehoe. Hi.
Hi, Freddie. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming here to the fucking hallowed studio that was decorated, and then I've had to take some of the decorations down because I thought I had affixed them to the wall properly, and I've come in and it's fucking everything's fallen down. I'm absolutely gutted. I went to the range.
The range, I love the range.
I went to the range for fucking pictures, and they've all fallen down. What the fuck is this bullshit?
What have you used to stick them up?
So I have used, you know, those sticky back fucking sticky things.
Oh right, yeah.
I've used that, and then I've used a nail with one of them. But the nails that I've bought, like an idiot, are too long, and so they stick out, and that doesn't have a nail on the back. And I was like, I'll just use 4 lots of stickiness on it and it'll be fine. And it wasn't fine. No. And that's £25 that I'll never get back. So do you know what? Fuck it. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to decorate this podcast just with like 1 picture for every week that you come up.
So you're going to change that? All right, that'd be a nice little
every
sort of
week
feature.
There's going to be a new little thing. I might have a little plant just here. That's the plan for that. So yeah, every week, and eventually there should be enough shit on the wall to fucking cover it and make it look slightly less like the lowest budget porno you've ever seen in your entire life. We are today talking about something that I am so passionate about and so excited to watch. We are talking about, I don't know what you call these people. So it's the people who quote Magna Carta and Freedom of the Land. Freeman of the Land, and I do not consent to your laws, and I stand under common law. And the person, what's your name? Is your name John Smith? John Smith is a legal character,
a legal fiction.
Yeah. I love.
Birth.
So they came to prominence for me during lockdown,
right?
And I was like, I love these people because for me personally, I watch a very niche subset of YouTube videos. Okay. It is can't pay will take it away.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Even though I'm like, I fucking hate bailiffs. Part of me is just like, oh, it's good at this. You're not coming in. And I'm like, oh, they fucking are, mate. Yes, they are.
So you've clearly got a thing about people asserting their rights over authority.
I like watching poor people get fucked. That's basically what it is. It's basically Tory porn.
It's a good time to be alive, then, isn't it?
Tory porn, isn't it? That's what it is. So I like watching that. I like watching road rage clips as well.
All right, yeah.
So I like watching people just fucking losing it and stuff. That's a great thing for me. I like watching TV license people.
All right.
I like
what they're trying to get the
they're trying to get the house.
All right.
Yeah, so they're like, I am the TV license man, and I need to come in. And then the person, obviously, they don't need to come in. And I think it's really funny when they meet somebody who's clued up.
Yeah.
Because the person at the door is like, no, you don't. And they're like, but I need to check if you're using a television. And they go, I'm not. And they go, huh. And you can just see in their face, they're like, remember your training, Keith.
Yeah. you have no power of entry.
Yeah.
But they spent decades telling us that they didn't need to enter because there's the detector vans. Don't they remember those?
Yeah.
Of them just driving around. Knowing that you're watching TV from outside. Well, just use your magic technology then to work out whether I'm doing it.
I have not got a TV license.
Okay.
I haven't had a TV license for years. I am opposed to TV license. I think it's ridiculous. And when because when it got announced that it was being scrapped eventually this year, in 2027, everybody was like, all my comedian friends were all like, oh my God, the BBC is an institution.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, because you've all fucking been on it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, all the London-based comics were all saying, we can't get rid of the BBC.
Because you got your 17 grand from Live at the Apollo, but they ain't paying me shit, so I'm not paying 150 quid for fucking team. I don't watch it. Anyway, I don't watch anything on the BBC. It's not that I'm like fucking, ideologically opposed, and I'm not one of those people that's like, it's being run by paedophiles or anything like that. I'm just like, I'm not asked about watching anything that's on there. Like, there's nothing that... I'm never one of those people that's like, oh, I can't miss not watching Line of Duty, because then what will I talk about with people at work? I'm a comedian.
I'm sort of famous. I've never seen any of the big programs that everyone's seen.
Yeah,
like box sets and all that.
Yeah,
like none. I've seen.
You've used the word famously very liberally here.
Yeah.
If there's one thing I know about Chris Kehoe, he's never watched Breaking Bad. So you've never seen Breaking Bad?
No.
You've never seen. All right, what's the most... I mean, it's going to be easier if I do it the other way rather than listing every show.
Yeah.
What's the most famous newish show that you've watched?
Oh, God. I don't...
Sopranos?
Yes, I've seen The Sopranos.
Great.
I saw them about 10 years ago on DVD. On DVD.
So I can tell you categorically that television hasn't gotten better.
No, I sort of thought that might be the case.
If that's the point, if The Sopranos is the point where you go... and switch off forever, then that's a great way to end.
Right, okay, that's good to know.
Sopranos is as good as it gets.
Yeah.
Breaking Bad is good. I didn't watch Game of Thrones because I'm not asked about fucking fantasy.
Yeah.
Oh, but it's got tits in it. Yeah, so is porn.
Exactly.
And it doesn't have dragons in it.
I don't get the thing for like the need for titillation in the world of internet pornography.
I used to watch. Now this might be your thing to watch. I used to watch Suits. Have you ever watched Suits?
No,
so
I know of it.
The premise of Suits is the most ridiculously stupid and yet weirdly edifying thing possible. Basically, a high-powered law firm, and they have hired a guy who is a bit of a fucking dropout, a bit of a wheeler dealer, but is like a savant. Okay,
Yeah.
And he blags his way into the fucking interview or whatever, and it becomes quickly apparent that he hasn't set the bar or anything like that. He hasn't done any of the things that you would need to do in order to become a paralegal, for that matter.
Okay.
But he amazes the main guy with his memory, and basically what happens is every week there's a case that nobody can solve. And there's a lot of this going on. There's a lot of like, they'll be absolutely stumped, and then they'll be having a conversation. Do you know what I mean? And it'll be like, oh, God, I don't know how we're going to win this one. I think that as good a chance of winning this as we have of pigs flying. And he'll go, pigs flying, and then he'll go, be right back, and then he'll run away. They'll come back, and he'll have some fucking archaic law about pigs or something that he's read fucking a million years ago.
So, but if he hadn't been triggered by the throwaway comment by whoever's in the room, he would never have thought about the way around the case. Is that it?
I mean, you could make the argument that the other people are more important than him because they give him his jumping off points.
Yeah, exactly.
And without that, he's a huge library of nothing. But yeah, it's just one of those shows that, like, how are we going to get out of this one? It's get out. But maybe, what if we don't need to get out? maybe if we need to get in. And they're like, but Mike, you're not making any sense. He's like, shut the fuck up. And then it's the one that Meghan Markle
is that what she was in?
Yeah, right, yeah. Before,
so it sounds it's a bit like
before ruining the monarchy.
Yeah, her masterwork.
Yeah, so that one I got bored of fairly quickly.
Right, okay.
But yeah, what were we talking about? TV licensing. Yeah. Fuck it. So I watch TV licensing videos, and then the other ones that I watch, and I watched loads of these during lockdown, are the Freemen of the Land. Yeah. I do not consent to your laws.
Yeah.
I quote Magna Carta 1415. I am a disciple of King James. And they just rattle shit off. And what makes it fascinating...
You've worked them out. They just rattle shit off. Well, that's pretty much...
Well, what makes it fascinating is I watch it with the same eyes as the police officers, right? And so I watch it the same way that they're doing, that we go, I'm pretty sure you're talking shit, but I'm not certain. Do you know what I mean? Like, you seem to be saying it so confidently that I'm just... like maybe. So we were going to have on this, we were going to have to talk to you, to debate with you. You are, of course, a fully trained lawyer or barrister or something or other. What's the difference between them all?
Lawyers is basically anyone who's studied law. Is a group thing. It's not really like an official position.
Yeah.
But then if you, there's two modes of practice. Well, there's a couple more, but the main two are solicitor and barrister. I mean, in the old days, it used to be that solicitors...
Oh, I know this. So a solicitor, a barrister is a more specialised version.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. In the old days, like it used to be that solicitors, pretty much anyone could work as a solicitor. You didn't have to have a qualification or anything like that.
Really?
I mean, in the old days, as in almost like Victorian times.
Oh, right. Okay.
It'd be like just some...
You don't mean like 1953?
Yeah, it wasn't like back in the 70s where anything went. So, like, when you're in court, you refer to a solicitor as my friend. So if you were addressing the judge...
Oh, is this where this all fucking my right honourable learned friend...
So learned friend is a barrister.
And it's such a fucking patronising thing to say.
And friend, but if you're a solicitor, you say my friend. So like expressly not learned, because they traditionally hadn't necessarily done any qualifications.
My learned friend sounds like a politically correct way of talking to like someone who's mentally disabled. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's my learned friend Steve. Get that glue out your mouth, Steve. He's very learned. Okay, right. So they've all got different fucking names. You're a barrister. What do you specialise in then?
I'm a criminal barrister, so I do criminal law. Yeah.
Are you ever worried? I mean, this is going off topic. Are you ever worried that like, if you send someone down for like murder or whatever, they look you straight in the eye and they go, Christopher Kehoe, when I come out, I am gonna literally the first thing I'm gonna do is fuck you up.
Yeah, occasionally, yeah.
Really?
Because I'm quite easily findable as well, because I don't have a stage name.
This is
it's the same name. I didn't think that far ahead.
But also as well, you look very much like you. Do you know what I mean?
I'm
like
quite distinctive.
You're not like Tim Henman, who could be like one of 6 million people because he's so generic, like a fucking FIFA regen of a face. You very much look like you.
Definitely. Well, if they'd forgot my name in 25 years' time and they went, the barrister who's got, and described me, they go, I know exactly the person that you mean.
Yeah. And also as well, Kehoe, it's very close to keyhole.
Yeah.
And every day when the cell's being locked, they're going to look straight down that and be like, fucking remember his name. I will get you, David Kehoe. Fuck! Not David. Shit. How have I forgotten his name on Christmas? Chris. Fuck Chris.
Yeah.
It
does occasionally bother me.
Okay. But you defended. So I wanted to do, right? I wanted to get on one of these Freemen of the Lands, and I had a couple of contacts who were quote-unquote experts in Freeman of the Landery. No, they say experts in common law. Right. That's what they say.
Okay.
Now, I wanted to get them on, and originally, I've been trying to get them on for maybe 3 months, right? Now, originally, they were like, we'll come on the podcast. However, it's being recorded, and we don't want to show our faces. And I was like, for what reason? And they were like, well, the powers that be,
That's an interesting insight into their mind.
Well, this is it. And so I thought, well, I'll let them on because I will have so much fun
covering up their faces in
Yeah.
edit. That would be so much fun for me.
Yeah.
Or they could wear a balaclava and I'd just laugh like any.
Like a
that'd
box with a question mark.
Well, I was even toying with having so you know those screens that they put a silhouette on the back of, and it's like in Panorama where they're talking about
some victim of some abuse or something doesn't want to be seen.
When he came home, I was very angry. I could tell he was mad at me. It was going to be that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then they decided in the end that the voice might be too big of a giveaway. And so I was like, right, okay. I was like, it's a bit of a fannying about to try and alter your voice. And then I was like, when I got this new bit of kit, this can, long story short, it can record in single tracks. So I can literally just pick their voice and sort of distort that rather than having just one track and then having to wait for every time that they speak and then highlighting it and changing it. Do you know what I mean? So what was going to happen is we agreed on a phone call with a distorted voice thing with you. Yeah, that was the level. It's literally as if I'm interviewing a fucking sex offender or something like that. Like they were really...
You may well be.
They were really... But they're really precious about it, right?
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, it's fallen through last minute, and I cannot imagine why somebody who is an expert in common law might not want to come on the podcast and talk to a barrister. I can't think of a reason as to why.
No, and it's interesting that they don't want to. They didn't want to show their face, because if there's one thing you can't stop them doing usually is popping up at things, going, "I am," holding themselves out as Freemen on the land. They're not shy about that usually in everyday life.
Well, I've tried recently to try and get into a little bit of law. It fascinates me. I find it really interesting. And one of the things, and I've spoken about this on the podcast before, one of the things that I find incredible is that we don't teach it at school.
Yeah.
So you come out of school not knowing what your rights as a citizen are, and I find that genuinely baffling.
Yeah.
In fact, one might say, if one was being somewhat of a conspiracy theorist, that maybe it suits the powers that be to not have an educated, informed population that are all well aware of their own rights and obligations as citizens.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a reason that they don't want that.
Quite possibly. Yeah. Was it George Carlin?
Metropolitan Police.
George Carlin who said, didn't he, that they want clearly the government want people who are intelligent enough to operate the machines, but not that intelligent that they question, well, why am I having...
Yeah. They don't want to realise that they're getting fucked over.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally. That's absolutely true.
But you're right about that. I mean, because it's like one of the classic statements about the law, particularly about criminal law, is that ignorance of the law is no defence, which has been interesting to watch certain high-profile people recently pretend that it is.
Oh, totally.
But it's like, well, how can that be the case if you then don't teach everyone what the law actually is then?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that maybe ignorance of the law might be a defence if you're doing something that's like one of those stupid fucking laws that's like been around since 13 AD or whatever, that's just never been thou shalt not fucking fire a crossbow over the River Severn at a fucking full moon or something like that, and you do it, and then there's some fucking PCSO with a stick up their arse going, I think you'll find that that's illegal. Then I can understand you turning around and going, look, I didn't fire at anyone, stop being a dick, and everyone goes, yeah, all right, we'll not be a dick. But to be like, I didn't know that a rape wasn't allowed. It's like, come on, back where I come from, rapes are considered a bloody big compliment. It's like, they're not though, are they? Do you know what I mean? So I've been sort of I've been reading a book. Well, I say I've been reading a book. I've been listening to an audiobook, which isn't quite the same, but it makes me feel like it is.
Yeah.
Fake law, and it's
is it The Secret Barrister?
The Secret Barrister, yeah. So it's basically dispelling common myths and stuff like that. The one I'm at the moment is your human rights and things like that. And I find it fascinating.
Yeah.
But let's break down the defence of these Freemen of the Land people. And I think we all know they're talking bollocks, but let's sort of wheedle out exactly why they're talking bollocks. So first of all, this common law thing that they say. Now, as far as I'm aware, and this is me being a layman and not knowing really what I'm talking about, there's common law and then there's another type of law, which I can't remember.
Statutory law.
Statutory law. Yeah. And statutory law is like a set of principles and laws that don't really change, and they are written into law, and common law gets built upon. So common law is about interpretation and stuff, and common law is where you go, oh, well, I think you'll find in the case of fucking Mercer versus Jones, 1963, the judge set a precedent that you can finger fucking chimpanzees in Chester Zoo, and then everyone goes, oh, right, well, I guess you can.
The famous case of the chimpanzee. Chester Zoo fingering incident.
It's one of the first ones that you get taught. Law school, first one. So in my head, that's what law is. Like that's what common law is.
Yeah. Well, common law is effectively judge-made law. It's law that as you say, is built on precedent after precedent after precedent and so on, and interpretation. It sort of fills in the gaps for statutory law, which is the law that is created by Parliament and by acts of Parliament. Okay. So by statutes, in essence.
So can you give me an example of a statutory law?
Right. So, for example, theft. So the Theft Act exists.
Okay. So
there's a definition of theft in the Theft Act, and that says clearly that it's an offence.
Yeah. Okay. So don't steal shit.
Yeah, in essence, yeah. Don't.
Is there a murder act?
No. There is a homicide act.
Okay.
And murder is a common law offence.
Murder's a common law offence.
So there's no actual statutory offence.
So before a judge ruled on it, people were like, nah, it's...
Well, yeah, it was, I think because it was one of the things that was so clearly wrong, bad, killing other people, that there's already a body, effectively, of understanding in jurisprudence about what is and isn't murder.
Okay.
So, and then where the statutory law has had to sort of fill in the gaps. So the Homicide Act has things like causing death by dangerous driving, for example, which is obviously quite a new thing in societal terms, So, so there's not actually a statutory offence of murder. It comes under.
Do you know what this reminds me of? Right, is you remember when you did French at school, and it was like le and la, and it was like, right, which one's le and which one's la, and your teacher was like, I don't know,
it's this, but then it might not be that.
Le and la, le table, la chair, just fucking get on board with it and shut the fuck up. It seems like there's no one set rule. It's just some of these are statutory and some of them are common law.
Yeah, so in lots of countries, they're like, for example, the criminal law is entirely codified. It's entirely statutory. So they have things like the sort of like, what do they call it? Like the penal code,
Okay.
That will be, so all the crimes are in that one thing, and it's like contrary to number 157.
I mean, that does seem like a better way of doing it.
I would say so, rather than
just to list them all.
Half.
Rather than to do this weird 50-50 bullshit.
Yeah.
Just go, all right, they're all on that sheet of paper.
Yeah.
Like, exactly. Find yours.
Just add, and then we'll add another one to it, because it's in an exhaustible list. Do you know what I mean?
So what they're saying is, because their thing is, I stand by common law, isn't it? Well, what the hell does that mean then?
Well, it doesn't really mean anything, to be honest with you, because everyone stands under common law, because we are a common law jurisdiction. So common law exists alongside all statutory law. So
but I mean as well, I imagine that like you don't get to choose which laws you do and don't abide by.
No, but
they
these guys think that you can. And that's the crux of it, is that they think that you can do that.
Imagine that. What a society that would be.
Yeah.
Well, look, I know that you said it was murder. However, I knew him and he was a cunt. that's literally what that defence is.
And you would have all killed him yourselves if you'd known him.
Trust me. You think murder's wrong until you meet a bellend like that. And then it changes your mind a little bit. Holy shit. So they say, so that's literally what it comes down to.
Pretty much, yeah. So I've had to encounter quite a few of these people.
So you've defended against them.
I've
prosecuted against them.
Actually, because I've worked in house. I've also worked in house in the public sector.
Yeah,
for local authorities and police forces and so on. And so you get them a lot. These cranks, which is what they are to a degree. They write to the public authority is always the sort of the target of their ire,
Okay.
So they write to you a lot, and they try and sort of say that. So like, if it's the police, for example, they'll get in touch with you and say that, well, I had one of them, just to give an example, it's probably easier. one guy was successfully convicted, so not just prosecuted, but convicted of smuggling diamonds, right? Which was a statutory offence, right? But it was like, what a brilliant offence. Diamond smuggling.
Diamonds.
From the Netherlands into...
You are the coolest person in the prison at that point. Because the thing is I don't know a lot about prisons, but I know that there's a code within them. And obviously, if you're like a rapist or a child molester or whatever...
You're going to have a crap time in
prison. You're going to have a bad time. You're going to get like beaten up every day, and fair enough or whatever. Murderers, I don't think... I think murderers of men are like... But murders of like women and children are like, nah.
Yeah.
And then like fraud maybe is probably a bit like, you fucking nerds. Do you know what I mean?
But you might be useful to them though, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
Give advice and write letters on their behalf and
I'll
stuff
keep
like
you on
that.
the side, but you're a fucking nerd.
Yeah.
But diamond smuggler is cool. That's cool as well. There's nobody who is at that prison who's like, well, I prefer rubies. Do you know what I mean? Like, no one can get angry at you for smuggling diamonds.
Yeah.
That's cool as fuck.
It's a sort of classic.
How did he smuggle them? Not up his bum.
I don't know actually.
Because they're quite angled, aren't they?
They're quite small though as well, can't they? And they're that thing of like low sort of like weight.
Yeah, but at the same time, it'd be like smuggling shattered glass up your anus.
Yeah.
It's a bit, oh god.
I don't think he was like a mule. I think he was like importing them inside objects and stuff. You know,
that's a better idea. That's a better idea. Just in my head, it's like, put it up your ass.
There is no other way to smuggle diamonds.
There's no other way. Up your bum. Now. Put it up your bum. Okay, so he's been putting them inside other things.
Yeah. So he's convicted of it, and it's something. But he then tried to sue, because he was a freeman on the land, he tried to sue the police and the government and, and the CPS and every single person, every single body involved with this for breaching his rights as a freeman on the land to not be prosecuted for smuggling diamonds.
That's amazing. You're infringing on my right to smuggle whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah, because what they do, it's so weird, and it would have been interesting if I would have liked to have asked a question as to why do you think that this will work?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because what they do is they say that common law is the only thing that applies to them, so they don't agree with statutory law.
So hang about, why don't they agree with statutory law?
Because it's convenient. Well, that's sort of why I want to know, because as far as I can see, it's because they want to be able to speed and not pay tax and grow cannabis. That seems to be the main thing.
That is pretty much how I live.
Yeah.
I'm on board with these guys.
Yeah, but they try and remove any risk of being convicted for those things.
Okay.
By effectively entering into a contract with the state is what they do, right? That's the right reaction, because it's really, really stupid, basically.
But isn't contract law in itself a different thing?
Yeah.
Like, I imagine you can't use a law to adhere to a law. Like you can't fucking say, well, I'm going to use this law to show that I adhere to laws.
Yeah.
Because then why are you picking that law? Like,
God. It's very sort of like a lot of cherry picking goes on with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what they do, because it originated in Canada, I think, the Freeman on the Land movement.
Yeah, well, I have seen it goes all over the world now as well. I was digging up articles from Canada, from America. Like, you're going to be surprised at that. Exactly. No, the country of alien abductions believes a weird thing. Yeah. Australia, it's big on as well.
Yeah, I can imagine. And particularly Canada and Australia, because they are based on English and Welsh law anyway, so they've got a similar sort of common law background.
Curiously, not an awful lot of common I do not consent by your laws in China.
No.
They don't seem to fuck about with that over there, do they?
Not many freemen on the land under Sharia law, is there?
Freemen of the Sharia.
Standing up to the local mullah. I've got my affidavit here.
I do not consent for you to chop my hands off, so wrap your fucking head around that, you prick. Yeah, not much Freeman of the Landing going on in Singapore.
No,
there's not. I do not consent to not eating chewing gum. Yeah, you're going into prison for 6 years anyway. Don't fuck about with me. Right, okay, so then they're choosing to not agree to statutory law.
Yeah, and how they do it, right? So this is, if you Google it, it'll come up on the internet. There's clearly like a sort of starter kit for if you want to do that you can, because they all have the same sort of like starting letter and the same affidavit. What they do is they file an affidavit, right, which proclaims their own sovereignty in essence.
Okay, I don't know what an affidavit is.
So affidavit is sort of like a statement. It's sworn.
Okay.
So it's because it's backed by a statement of truth. You have to accept it at face value, is what they say. Okay, and it's sworn by a notary public.
So sorry. Because I'm saying it's true, you have to accept it.
That's what they say. Yeah.
Amazing.
So
Absolutely amazing.
So they assert these truths, okay, and send it to the police, to the Queen.
So I've already spotted a flaw in this.
Okay.
Just in case.
Yeah.
So if the first thing that you need to do is submit an affidavit saying that you are hereby not consenting to whatever.
Yeah.
So and the whole point of an affidavit is that it's a truth. Okay.
Yeah.
The thing is that truth is very malleable and it depends on where you are in that moment in time.
Yeah, it's not fact, is it?
Totally. So, for example, if I'm saying, for example, that I'm wearing white shoes, then that's true now, but in a week's time, it probably won't be. I'll probably wear some different shoes.
Yeah.
And so, does it not just completely like here's the thing, is if you're saying, I'm choosing not to agree by this, blah, 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 if something then happens to you, then you're not going to stand by that previously submitted affidavit, are you?
No, so, that's what I would have wanted to ask. Like, well, what would happen if your house got burgled?
Yeah, or let's say, for example, you said that murder was you said that theft, wasn't it? Theft was the statutory laws. So, yeah, their house gets burgled. Do they then turn around and go, well, this is not a police matter,
Yeah.
and I refer you to the previous affidavit that I've submitted to the Queen, who'll be aware of me?
Yeah.
Because that's what the Queen does, is sitting around all day, reading affidavits.
All the mail that
and
she
defending paedophile. Anyway, so didn't finish it. It's not libelous. Is that true? Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably.
But it was. You didn't name anybody, did you? So it's fine.
So they have to submit an affidavit first of all. I imagine when they submit this affidavit, it goes straight in a special pile.
I have a certain filing system for
with
them.
a bin. Do you get them?
I get them. I read them. Yeah, yeah.
Shut the fuck up.
Because when I first started working in house for the police.
When was the last time you got one?
I don't know, within the last few weeks. I get them all the time.
Oh, that's so fucking funny.
Them, they come in all the time. And there's been there's always spikes of them. And lockdown has created a spike of
because they're bored. They go down the rabbit hole.
They're bored and they're watching YouTube and all that sort of stuff.
Do you have to submit it in writing or can you email?
It always comes in writing.
Okay, but can you email?
Potentially, well, it would have the same. It'd be easier for me to just delete it than it would be to put it in the bin.
I see.
Because
I'm not suggesting everybody who listens to this or watches this podcast should find where barrister Christopher Kehoe worked and send him affidavits every day. But it would be very funny.
It would, to be fair. But the thing is though, if you emailed it, then you would lose the effect of as they have if having it printed on vellum paper with a wax seal.
Do they really wax seal it?
Yeah, some of them do.
Like a wedding invitation.
One of them had his thumbprint in blood. It looked like. It was I think it was red ink, but it looked like. Yeah.
Imagine sending it. Look, we got your affidavit. Unfortunately, it wasn't sealed in a thumbprint of your own blood, exactly. So we are unable to accept it at this time. Fucking hell.
Yeah. So they send that. And basically what they do is they say...
Do they think it goes onto a big computer or something?
I genuinely think that they must... I think they must know by now that it doesn't have any effect.
No.
You would think that.
But I don't understand the... And again, I'm going to put this video in some Freeman of the Land groups to create a bit of debate. So if you're watching this, tell me why in the comments of the video that you're watching or on the podcast or whatever, tell me why you think that you should be able to pick and choose which laws you abide by, and the only way that you need to opt into this system is just by writing on a piece of paper and sending it to whoever. Tell me why that makes any fucking sense whatsoever. It's nonsense.
Yeah, well, yeah. So what they say then? So they send this piece of paper saying, you accept that I am a living person of blood with a free soul. And it's all very metaphysical, you know what I mean? And it's interesting. and that I'm not bound by. Basically, and they have this long list.
Sounds like an Enya lyric, doesn't it?
Sounds like a Freeman on the land.
Yeah,
like
and then they sign it off with "Sail away, sail away, sail away." Come on.
Yeah, and they say, and they're often very well. There's often like hundreds of these assertions, basically, right? Okay. And they say, unless you respond, like, and they put you to proof. They say, you prove to me that I am bound by statutory law.
You live in this country.
Yeah.
The end.
Yeah. You prove this, you prove this, and it's literally a long list of things they ask you to prove. And they say, if you don't prove all of these, then you accept the truth is that I'm not bound by these things. And they give you like 3 days to reply. Like 3 days.
And you're like,
if you were minded to do it, it wouldn't give you enough time anyway.
But that'd be like if I walked into like fucking one of Gordon Ramsay's restaurants or something like that, and I'm like, all right, okay, so you accept that I'm a human and I've got eyes and a nose and a mouth and feet and legs and things, and I am going to give you 3 days to write a fucking 500-page book about sausages, and your head chef has to write it and seal it off, and if not, then I get to eat here for free for life. You'd be like, well, no, because I'm busy cooking food.
Yeah, and that's not how...
And that's not my job, and that's not how it works. And who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
Who the fuck are you? If you went into any of their jobs and went, here's a ridiculous demand and you have 3 days, you'd be like, go away.
Yeah.
Behave. Who the fuck do you think you are?
Well, that is literally what everyone thinks when they come in. You know what I mean? Like if you give it any thought at all, you just think, well, this is just clearly nonsense.
But the thing is as well, right, is so... Are they saying as well that they should have to opt in? Are they saying that statutory law is like organ donation, and that basically you're assumed to opt in unless you specifically opt out?
Yeah,
is that what they're saying?
Pretty much.
So let's say, for example, let's say hypothetically that that's true. It's not true, but let's say that it is. What ramifications would that have for a society? Like,
well, yeah.
Like, how would we even go about business and shit? Give me an example of another statutory law apart from theft.
Well, sexual offences is a statutory law.
Sexual offences?
The Sexual Offences Act has got all the sex offences in it.
You could really fancy somebody at work. Oh, God, I don't like where this is going. You could really fancy somebody at work and be like, Lauren, I really quite like you. You're very beautiful, and we seem to get on quite well. Would you like to go for dinner with me and then to have sex? And then she can be like, no, I have a boyfriend. You'd be like, no problem at all.
I do dine for free at Gordon Ramsay's restaurants.
Yeah, just so you are aware. They didn't write a 500-page essay on me in time. Okay, Lauren, no problem at all. What are you doing specifically in 3 and a bit days' time? You'll be at home. Wonderful. I hereby, with eyes and nose and mouth, and goodbye. And then you could walk round and then just have your way. And then the police come round and they're like, freeze, you fucking animal. And they go, lads, it's all above board. I sent my I'm going to do a rape letter off 3 days ago. And so I actually don't abide by statutory law anymore. So... common law or nothing for me. I think you'll find I didn't murder her, which is common law. So,
yeah.
I think you best fuck off. How about that?
Yeah.
That's genuinely the society in which they think that we should live.
Exactly. Effectively anarchy, with some laws apply to some people and not to others, and so on and so forth.
But I mean, I'm
unworkable.
I'm somebody who I do not like the police. And here's how petty I am. Every time I see a mobile speed van, I will put my middle finger up and swear at it. So much so that I got a speeding ticket through the post literally a few days ago. It's my first one in 2 years. And the picture has captured me doing that
Really?
at the van. Yeah. I'll screenshot it, and I'll send it you. It's fucking magical. It's just me going, fuck off. I hate them. There are some laws that I don't agree with. I think that drugs, by and large, should be legalized. I think that whatever you put in your own body is your own fucking business. I think, is prostitution legal?
Prostitution is legal.
I think it should be
It's like running a brothel isn't. You know, there's various things around.
I think it should be like Amsterdam rules.
Yeah.
Like, all right, we're gonna like try and like sort of curb the exploitation, like by fucking bringing it in house. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there are laws that I don't agree with, but I don't fucking speed and take smack and, you know, shag hookers and then be like, well, I've decided not to agree with them.
Yeah.
Because you can't pick and choose. And surely if you are that bothered, if you really want to speed and take drugs and fuck hookers, go and live in Thailand. Do you know what I mean? Where they're pretty fine with that, providing that you're not too much of a cunt with it.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And it's like there's ways to do things, isn't there, as well? You know, like lots of people break the law all the time. Like the vast majority of law that gets broken doesn't even come to the police's attention.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can sort of live within your own rules to a degree anyway, you know.
But as well, your own rules, like we mentioned before, are going to be malleable and shaped by your own experiences and stuff.
Yeah.
So right now, I'm pretty against armed robbery. I think it's a bad thing to do. But if I, let's say, lost all my money and I got armed robbed myself by somebody who'd fucking filled out the statutory form or whatever, then I might turn around and go, well, why the fuck am I being a pussy? Like, all right, I was against armed robbery, but now I'm all for it in my direction. Yeah. So, like, you can't pick and choose. And also, if you could, things would change.
Yeah. Well, and that's it. And what's interesting about the whole Freeman movement and about, you know, and how they want to pick and choose things and so on, is that they often refer to Magna Carta as well, as we just mentioned before.
Well, we're going to talk about this next.
And obviously, Magna Carta, one of the things that Magna Carta does is ensure that that the law applies equally to all. You know, that's one of the main sort of thrusts of a democratic and just society.
I don't even really know what the Magna Carta is. I'm pretty sure it's like this fucking, like, in my head, I think of the Magna Carta, I think of King James, I want to say.
John
James. John, not Sheriff of Nottingham.
Yes, yeah.
Really, the same one?
Yeah.
The lion with the big floppy crown that keeps sucking his thumb?
Yeah.
No way.
He was actually quite a good king, but he's like been written into history as a bad one.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but is this quite a good king by the standards of the Middle Ages?
I think by the standard of,
which is like
just judging by other 15th century monarchs. You know?
Do you know what's weird is that people will say that in 100 years' time about Theresa May. They'll go, she actually wasn't that bad, all things considered.
People are saying
it now. You should see the next fucking guy. That's what makes me worry about, like, everyone's talking about, oh, Johnson needs to go and all this stuff. It's like, but who are we going to get in instead? Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, oh, this is a satanic baby that we found somewhere. We're all going to be part of its whims.
Sauron in charge or something.
It's just getting progressively worse every time.
Yeah, we've gone from you've got like Cameron, May, Johnson. It's like, you know,
I'm not even like and I try and be as apolitical as I can in terms of like not blaming, be like, oh, it's the Tories or it's the whatever. Like, it's just objectively, it just gets progressively worse.
Yeah, they're just bad. Like, they're just not good at the job.
Do you know what the thing is? I can't remember who told me this, right? But it's so true. Is I think the whole Boris Johnson and fucking Donald Trump things as well, you can trace it back to Wagner and Chico in
right.
X Factor,
okay.
right? And there was a time when X Factor was quite serious, and it was Britain's Got Talent. It was like, no, we will keep the most talented ones in. And then everyone realised that the live finals were boring as fuck because no one wants to watch someone being good at something. Fuck that shit.
Yeah.
So what they did is they go, what about if we just keep one mental in and just see what happens? And then they got like a Wagner or a Chico, and then once a week they'd be like, it's a Chico time, and everyone would go, God, that's shit. God, they've got to get rid of them. And then they'd keep them in for a week. They'd be like, oh, I can't believe it. And it engaged people in a way that it hadn't engaged in them previously.
Things became about engagement rather than entertainment.
And then you had John Sargent, was it, fucking on Strictly, dragging that fucking poor woman across the floor like she just fucking murdered her under common law. And then it just got more and more ridiculous. I think like Jedward and shit like that. And then it bled into politics, and it was like, oh, well, he is quite funny. He's a bit of a laugh.
Yeah.
Oh, he threatened to have a reporter badly beaten up and has said many racist things. Yeah, but he's a bit of a laugh, though, isn't he?
His hair, though.
He's a bit of a laugh, though. Yeah. And then now, when shit hits the fan, it's like, oh no, we actually need like a serious one. And he's like,
politics should be boring, not engaging.
Oh,
just people getting on with the job.
The next person I vote for is going to be the driest fucking person ever. The sort of person that wouldn't have any parties at Downing Street because no one would fucking show up to them. Do you remember?
Keir Starmer, then, basically.
I remember when Theresa May got fucking done for, they said, what's the wildest thing you've ever done? And she went, running through a field of wheat. And everyone was like, you boring fuck it. What, that's the wildest thing you've ever done? Running through a crop, like, you boring bitch.
Yeah.
But now it's like, I'd kill for that. I'd kill for that. She's not fucking breaking the law, is she?
No. It was also when she said it was the worst thing she'd ever done. I was like, I remember you sending round those vans telling immigrants to go home. That was probably worse than running through a wheat field, I think. But, you know.
Well, I mean, it stopped the vans from being used for TV licensing, so I wasn't bothered about it. But yeah, so this whole fucking Magna Carta thing, what is the Magna Carta, basically, for somebody who doesn't know?
So Magna Carta was a document that was signed. It stands for Great Chart or something. Charter, in essence. Like,
they really thought about that one, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be pretty fucking great, this charter. What should we call it? Leave it at that. Leave it. We've nailed it.
Yeah. And it asserted certain rights, basically. So it allowed rights mainly to barons, to other members of the aristocracy. To check the power of the king, in essence.
You mean to tell me that this was a law that benefited other rich and powerful people?
Yeah.
And you don't get that a lot, do you?
No.
Which is
progressed since then, I think.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Real interesting. Go on, carry on.
Yeah. So it effectively it acted as, I think it was the first sort of check to the power of the king, of the monarch, in essence.
Aye, okay.
And it allowed various things to various barons to sort of keep him in check.
So it's like, look, there's certain stuff that I ain't going to do.
Yeah.
Like, he was like, look,
and it was to collect taxes as well, really, is what it was. It was sort of set up a system of governance whereby there's a contract now between us, like a social contract, where I won't go too far and you'll give me some money. And it was to fund, as I understand it, war probably with France. That's generally we were at war with.
I see. Right. Okay. So you pay me a bit of tax, and in return, I won't be as much of a cunt.
Yeah.
That's pretty
much.
Yeah,
so like the barons had sort of said, right, well, if we're going to pay, it was a negotiation. If we're going to pay you tax for your war, then we want something back, which is a bit of your pie, thank you. You know, that's pretty much how it was. But it did create basically the sort of first understanding that people are equal under law and that no one should be denied a fair trial, in essence. Is what it did. That's the main thing that it did, I would say.
So he goes, I can be held accountable as well from now on.
Yeah.
As the king.
Yeah. It's almost like a document that asserts the rule of law. It starts basically the rule of law as being the main.
What does this have to do with
now?
Yeah,
700 years later.
700 years later. I mean, I guess did it form the basis of modern law?
It has been said as having done that, yeah. And from an academic point of view, it's certainly
but imagine as well.
important.
But if they're saying as well, oh my god, if they're saying as well, I stand with common law, then you can't quote something 700 years ago. Because the literal point of common law, as we've established, is that judges interpret it and make rulings, and it evolves.
Yeah. And the other thing that seems about Magna Carta is that it was actually put into statute as well later. So it was originally drawn up. I mean, it's a document in itself, for one thing. So
right, okay.
You know, and it was basically enacted into statute.
So the Magna Carta is statutory law at the moment?
No, it's been repealed.
It's been repealed?
It's all been repealed bar about 3 parts of it.
Okay, and that's statutory law is the bit that they don't stand with.
Yeah, the Acts of Parliament.
I stand with the bit that I don't stand with.
Yeah.
Yeah, you fucking heard me. What's that? I don't make sense. Maybe you should just leave and let me carry on with my criminality.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
So that side of it is often overlooked because you were seeing in lockdown quite a lot of businesses citing, I think it was, they call it Article 61, it's not actually an article, but it's like Part 61 of Magna Carta, which is, this is an unjust law, therefore I am entering into lawful rebellion against the crown and refusing to abide by this unjust law.
Oh, I see. So that's what they... Right, okay, so it's not necessarily about murder or anything like that. It's if they believe a law is unjust.
This is specifically people that were using Magna Carta.
Okay.
Because you saw a few notices. It was like the whole thing became very disjointed.
I did see. Do you know what? There's a girl, bless her fucking heart, who she was a hairdresser from Bradford, and I can't remember her fucking name, but I kept up the articles about her. And I'm really sorry if you listen to this, you probably don't, but she looked thick as actual pig shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not slamming hairdressers or anything like that, but she didn't have a choice between that or being a neurosurgeon. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it was very much like, I wasn't very good at GCSE, so I've done my MVQ in hair and beauty. It was that kind of person. And she said, like, I do not stand by your laws of consent or whatever. And it's like, someone has advised you spectacularly badly.
Yeah. And that's it. And this is the issue the serious issue I have with like the Freeman on the land types is that it's a grift. You know what I mean? There's people making money from the vulnerability.
They charge
of others. Yeah, there's money to be made in it. I think a lot of it gets passed around by word of mouth now as well, and just general internet stuff.
How many Freeman of the Land cases have you lost?
None.
How many have been lost in like overall in the country?
None.
so right now,
as far as I'm aware, none, because it's not based on the law.
How many cases do you reckon a month or a year? Do you reckon?
I couldn't say, to be honest with you.
If we said conservatively over the country, maybe 100 a month.
It's a round number, so let's just say that.
Yeah. So, but basically, the point being is that you are on a several thousand to non-winning streak.
Yeah. Well, there's been no...
People is still like, there's something in this.
if a Freeman on the land got to the point where they created a precedent with their stuff, everybody would have heard of that.
So it just needs one, and then everyone can jump in, can't they?
Yeah, it would need... I mean, all the cases... There's been cases in Canada... certainly quite high in the Canadian Supreme Court, where there's been a sort of like a legitimate, like an actual sort of fine. This is my ruling on this is that this is nonsense in essence.
Really,
is what the Supreme Court have said.
Well, how
sort
come,
of say just
how
send
come
this
we haven't
to
done
all.
that then? How come we haven't?
It's never really got that far. So like the court system is one where precedents can only be made by higher courts. There's no obligation to follow a ruling of a sort of parallel or lower courts. So
right, okay.
So it just doesn't get that far. Is the thing.
So it never gets far enough for somebody important enough to say this is total bollocks.
As far because it gets. What happens is that they say it's in the criminal court.
Yeah,
it'll be dealt with under the law for whatever it is. You know, whatever the offence is. Someone will try and pull out this Freeman on the land sort of chicanery to get it thrown out. The court will indulge them for a bit and let them talk and nod along, and everyone will be sitting there sort of checking the watches and so on, and then it'll just carry on and they'll be convicted.
Yeah, they just get ignored,
and they just get ignored. Yeah,
basically,
and then that's it. There's no ruling on their point because they're not actually making a point that requires a ruling on it.
Right. Okay.
So it'll just be ignored and then crack on.
What other kind of things have people come up against you and used as a defence? Is it mainly just those three?
So. In terms of like this sort of quasi law. So there's been the Freeman on the land is the main one, and they've moved into calling themselves sovereign citizens now.
That
same
sounds cooler though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Freeman of the land sounds a little bit like being a farmer in the Middle Ages.
Yeah, it's got.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm the Freeman of the land, and I fucking dig potatoes. You know, whereas sovereign citizen sounds a bit like.
Sounds a bit more American, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm a sovereign citizen, so ain't no problem. Yeah, man, I like sovereign citizen. It's a cool rebrand.
Yeah. So they've moved into that. It's the same thing though. It's the same argument.
Hocus pocus.
Yeah. Using complex sort of like legalese. Doing all the things that actually people blame lawyers of doing, accuse lawyers of doing.
Yeah, muddying the water, trying to create...
Deliberately obfuscating things by... I realised I just used the word obfuscate, though I didn't need to. Almost to prove the point.
What the fucking hell was obfuscated?
Obfuscate means to deliberately like blur things.
Well, isn't that a fucking irony?
I was going to say, I just realised that halfway through saying it, I thought, I'm going to start saying a word that I have no need to use at all.
Fucking hell. Do you know what I like as well? And I watched some videos on this where they go, like, what's your, like some policeman's like, what's your name? And it's like, the name of, like, John Smith is not my name. That is a fictional character. I am John of the Smith.
Family Smith. Yeah,
John of the family Smith.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? How do they think that that's going to work?
Well, because this is it's so ridiculous, this point. Because, and this is the one that comes from America. What they say, right, is that when the gold standard was stopped being the measure for a country's wealth,
right?
They said that the country's wealth then was measured based on its citizens. And that when you're born, right, a legal fiction is created so that when you get official letters, and it's always in capital letters, to John Smith, all capital letters. Like things that are created by computers, it's always in capital letters.
I'm just, honestly, I still don't know where this is going.
Right? They say that is not really you. That is a legal fiction that was created against which is a monetary value, which is used to work out the economy of the country.
But that's
clearly not true, is it?
Not true. So here's several reasons as to why that's not true. Number one, people use your name to send you things, as has just happened here. Like if someone's sending if someone's sending you a letter, then that in itself isn't anything to do with the monetary value of a country's wealth. It's just them sending you a letter. And then also, Jesus.
Yeah. So they stand up in court. I've seen them do this. They say, because the first thing you do when you're in court is you're invited to identify yourself.
Yeah.
With your name and your address. You go, are you John Smith? And they go, no, I am not John Smith. I am a flesh and blood human being who has the same name as John Smith. And they have the birth certificate there to say that, and then launch into this story about this is a legal straw fiction person that was created when I was born. And
why do I feel like it's going to be like a Few Good Men ripoff? Like, you want the John Smith? You want the John Smith? You can't handle the John Smith. You can only handle the fictional representation of the John Smith.
Yeah.
No, I decry your John Smith handling. That's fucking insane. That's absolutely insane.
It is when you go into it. It's completely insane. And because they say in America, it's proven that it's... So they say it ends... So I think I have to word this. In America, they say that part of it then leads on to, in essence, admiralty law being the law that applies to you. So the law of the sea.
The law of the sea!
And
that's fucking brilliant!
And herein is where the contract issue comes from, because... It would be, you are effectively...
By the law of the sea. You live in Coventry.
Yeah.
The fucking 300 miles from a sea, you daft twat.
And they say that all interactions you have with the state are a matter of contract because it's a commercial transaction that goes on between you.
Hang about. God. Oh my God. Like, I don't understand enough of law to understand why they think that this might work. So I'm just getting thrown bollocks, right? But isn't the law of the sea the same of the law of the land, unless you're in international waters?
Yeah, and that's where it is.
You can't go to Blackpool and then paddle off 8 feet into the sea and then go, da-da, I'm no longer bound by your rules over there on the beach. No, I'm in seawater now. It's a totally different set of rules that apply.
It's ridiculous.
Do you know what? I love the idea of like an old-fashioned police chase, but they run, and then the guy just dives into some water, and the police go,
there's nothing we can do.
Nothing we can do. You know, like a church in the old ages where they get there and it was neutral land.
Yeah.
They want to go
on the Mexican border. We can get over the state line.
How funny would it be to have loads of police all along on deck chairs, just sat waiting for him to come out, and he's like, I'm not moving. And they're like, well, you're going to have to sometime.
What happens when the tide goes out? Are you going to keep moving out with the tide?
Out. In the meantime, we'll all have an ice cream. You're the one whose fucking fingers are getting wrinkly because of all the water, you daft twat. It's just a waiting game. And look, we got donkey rides. We're fucking fine here, mate. We are absolutely... How long are you going to tread water for? Exactly, mate. Exactly. Shit. What a crock of shite.
Yeah, well, it's so obviously nonsense. You know what I mean? The thing's I'm going to be sort of charitable to them and sort of say, I sort of understand why you might want to opt out of some laws and that you feel that things are unjust. You didn't have a say in where you were born and what laws you have to abide by and all that.
Yeah, but you do have a say in where you live.
But you can move somewhere else. Exactly.
You can quite clearly move somewhere else. I mean. It might be harder to move to Europe now, but that's it's no problem at all. But generally speaking, if you don't want to abide by the rule of fucking whatever, then just go to a country that doesn't have that rule. If it bothers you that much, but you have to have an underlying set of principles that underpin any society.
Yeah, and you're not going to like all of them, are you?
No, you're not going to like all of them. There's always going to be some that you're like, ugh, that one.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what's here's here's a law that I believe should maybe be repealed and thought about, right? Have you got one in your head, just so I don't look like a monster?
I'll think of something. Yeah,
okay, all right. Yeah. So here's a law that I'm kind of iffy on, right? And I'm not just saying this for controversy. It's not going to be that bad, so don't worry. I'm not going to be like, if they're fit, I'm not like that. I'm just saying, right? So. I genuinely think that if you have conned someone out of money successfully, then good for you.
You should be rewarded for your cunning.
So, I'm sorry that your fucking nan is gullible, but, if you like those con men and stuff like that, I kind of think, the ones that are like, hello, I'm calling you from your bank.
Yeah.
Hello, if you look on your bank account, you notice I'm not doing a specific accent here, I'm keeping it very very general. If you look on your bank account, there is a name of a bank there. Can you say that name of the bank? NatWest. Yes, I'm calling you from NatWest. If you're that thick, then I kind of think you sort of deserve to lose your money. Because, look, what is a bookies other than a fucking, slightly more licensed version of that?
Yeah.
And they're on the fucking high streets and they advertise on television. Nigerian scammers should be allowed to advertise on ITV. Hello, I am a prince. Send me your money. 3 to what? Then Ray Winston pops up. He's got 50 fucking million quid to give to you. You can't bet him play now. But yeah, I genuinely think that actually, by the by, generally speaking, if you can scam someone out of some money.
You should be allowed to do it.
yeah. You've earned it. You've earned it in your own way.
Yeah. I think that's fair enough. In a similar way, with immigration, I think I'm pro-immigration. You know what I mean? I should point out.
If you blag your way here,
I think if you're, it's not a consideration about whether or not you should stay at the minute, the nature of your journey particularly. But I think if you've got here from, from say Syria. Yeah, and then you've got on a boat, and then you've smuggled on into a lorry, and blah blah. You've done all these things. I think you know what, you really, really want to be here.
Yeah,
you should be allowed to stay on that basis alone.
How about this, right? And it's a terrible idea, but it would make for extremely good television, right? So, illegal immigrants, you catch them or whatever, and rather than send them back. You get them 100 of them. This is a little bit like Squid Game. You get 100 of them, and you put them in a very complicated maze, right?
Right. Okay.
And the first 50 to make it out the maze, you can live here, and then the other 50 is like, nah, fuck off. But the first 50, but the maze is insanely complicated.
Yeah,
it's not no fucking.
I mean, it's a good metaphor for our actual immigration system that we've got, to be fair.
There you go. But it's not like a fucking maze, like a hedge maze at Chatsworth House, whatever, and you just have to be 6 foot tall.
It's like a proper labyrinth with...
It's a proper labyrinth. Yeah. It is... and it goes in and out and underground and above ground and shit like that. And there's points and stuff.
It's sort of the Running Man, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, and weapons. There's also weapons, but not weapons that can kill anybody because that would be inhumane.
Just slow them down.
Mario Kart weapons.
Oh,
There's a turtle shell that you can just launch, some little banana skins that you can leave behind you and shit, and then
all right.
somebody
would it be staggered so that the further at the front you get, the crapper the weapons you get are? So the ones at the back getting a little
I just love the idea of like a Syrian refugee leaving a banana skin and a gay man that's emigrated the Congo running and slipping. Oh no, I'm gonna have to repress my sexuality if I can get out of this maze. I think that's genius.
If only I had quicker footwork, I would have been fine.
Oh my fucking god! This has been so much fucking fun. I've learned so much. Do you know what I've learned? And I'm going to put it out there. I always try, and especially if we have two people on here and one's debating another point or whatever, I always try and find a middle ground because I think it's dangerous to purely side with one person. Yeah. I think there always has to be times where you go, well, maybe the person is kind of right in a roundabout sort of way. But in this way, I cannot, for the life of me, see any basis or precedent or anything that can lead me to think that either, number one, there's anything in this Freeman of the Land movement, number two, that it is even worth exploring as because the win rate is 0%. So immediately, the thing that really shook me is about them giving money towards it. That's
where it becomes a bit more than just a bit of harmless sort of, fun almost,
That's fucking insane.
Yeah, there's people that make money from it who are scammers. So it means by your rights, you should be on their side.
Yeah, actually, fair play. Do you know what? Actually, you are right. I do side with them on this. Yeah. It's not their fault. It's the fucking idiots that go in and go, how many cases have you won? 0, you say? Well, I look forward to being the first. How many as your entire... Let me see. You're on a 5,000 losing streak right now, and you want, how much? £350 off me, and you might be able to be the first win on your books. Yeah, well, that sounds all in order to me. I'm convinced anyway. Or should I say, the fictional person that represents me is convinced. Fucking nonsense. Because I get that people are thick or whatever, and some people are just stupid.
Yeah.
But I don't see how you can look at we've never won a case and be like, well, I still think there's something in this.
Yeah. Yeah. There's got to be a first time for everything, There isn't necessarily.
This whole gravity thing, I'm not convinced by, Every time I throw the ball, it falls to the ground, but... And this fella's giving me £350 that it won't rise next time. Well, we'll never be too certain, will we? What a fucking bag of shit. Shit me. Because I get that fucking lawyers and barristers and solicitors are expensive. They are dear. But isn't that what fucking, the county courts are for and shit?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like, even in the magistrate, you can represent yourself if you want. You don't have to be, represented.
Well, I'm going through the tenancy deposit scheme at the moment.
Right, okay.
So I'm pretty sure I can talk about this, and if not, I don't care. So I had this thing, right, where I was renting, and then I left, and I had the deposit, and there were a couple of things. When I tidied up, I tidied the place up, but there were a couple of things that I physically could not move. So one of them was a desk that I couldn't get rid of, and one of them was a sofa in average condition. And I was like, well, I can't get rid of them. The reason being is I live on a terraced flat, and I lived on like a terraced flat, and the way to get rid of it would have been to go over my neighbour's fence and then out. That's how we got them in. But my neighbour wasn't in. I wasn't thinking about it. It just slipped my mind. But I didn't feel comfortable trespassing on her property.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I just left it. I was like, right, okay, maybe they'll charge me 100, 200 quid to get rid of it. And that's just me being stupid or whatever. And then I got the thing through and they were like, we are taking all of the money because of this damage. And then I was like, right, okay. I was like, well, that damage was already there when I moved in. And they went, no, it wasn't. And I went, yeah, it was. It was listed on the damage report here. And they went, oh, right, okay. Well, we're actually taking it for the ceiling. There's a problem with the ceiling. And I went, yeah, well, I said, I told you about that. I rang the landlord and I said that you don't need to worry about fixing it. I'm not bothered about it. But that happened because there was a leak in the roof. You've got a... And they went, oh, right, okay. We're taking it for redecoration. And I went, I haven't redecorated anything. I said, you can see in the pictures that you've taken that I haven't painted anything or changed anything. And they went, just go through the tenancy deposit scheme. And I was like, right. I was like, I'm pretty sure that you are not allowed to just constantly change the reason to withhold my deposit until something seems about right.
Until you give up and go, that. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
And also as well, I was really suspicious when all of the quote unquote damage and quote unquote alterations
all came to exactly
added up to exactly £850. I was like, well, what are the odds of that?
Yeah.
There was a thing as well that just said so they changed it so many times, and then there was one thing where they just put carpets. And I was like, cool. What specifically about those carpets? They're just carpets, mate. Just carpet. But I was going through this and I was like, I am pretty sure that I am in the right, but I'm not going to hire somebody to check because it can't be asked. So I just went through the fucking TDS and they're going to come back any day, and then I'll just I'll just go to court. Like I genuinely think that the court system in this country works fine for what it does. The only thing is, though, is if I was really thick, like I'd probably say I'm above average intelligence, but if I was somebody who was quite stupid, then I imagine I'd be like, oh, God, we can't get our deposit back because of carpets.
And that's what they rely on, it. People are going, no, he's got us with that carpets thing. You know, like, and I say it happened to us that at uni in third year. There were three of us sharing a flat. Yeah. One of the lads, Tony, his deposit, he didn't pay his last month's rent, so she went, well, I'll take your deposit as your last month's rent.
Fine.
Fair enough.
That works.
Me and Rob, the other lad, we did pay our last month's rent, and then our deposits came to, exactly the amount of remedial work required on the flat to make it habitable for the next people. Yeah. And it was like, this is nonsense. There was nothing wrong with it at all. Yeah. And she sent us a list of like all the things, and there's one of them like, damage to a lasagna dish. I was like, what, a fucking lasagna dish? We've not used there's three lads living together.
Fucking, we like to party in this house.
One of them was the removal of rubbish.
30 years making lasagna. I love the idea that students are also three lads as well. Yeah. Also third years as well. So by the time you get to third year, you've learnt to live like scum. Yeah. It's not even like maybe first year before Christmas, one of you goes, I fancy making a lasagna. Yeah, but then it never happens again.
No, we're all just sitting eating beans out of the tin by that
pot
point.
Noodles and crisps and shit. Exactly. No one's making a lasagna.
I know.
Also, a lasagna is such a fucking faff to make. Yeah. I might make a spaghetti bolognese, I could believe. But a lasagna, a third-year student laying down pasta sheets.
Yeah. And whipping up a bechamel sauce. Yeah, surely the whisk would have been damaged as well. But it was like, but one of them was like, she charged us 200 quid for removal of rubbish, right? And the rubbish that was left were like 8 copies of FHM.
All stuck together.
Shove it off the table.
That's where the bechamel sauce went.
I'm in the wrong business. I should do that. Removing magazines at 200 quid a pop. You know what I mean?
Well, I thought as well, I offered them £200, which I think as well, to get rid of a sofa and a desk, which, by the way, were perfectly fine and serviceable, and they could have happily kept in the unfurnished thing. I thought that they would have gone fucking
free furniture.
Quids in. Yeah. I've got 2 reasonable bits of furniture that I can either keep or sell, and I've got an extra 200 quid off this guy. that is reason. Like, I would have thought they would have been like, fucking yes.
Yeah.
And then when it came back and it was like all of that, I even accused them as well. So I highlighted all the times that they'd changed it. And I even said, listen, I am flat out accusing you of changing and keeping changing what the deposit was for until I give up. And I will speak to the property ombudsman. I can't be fucking arsed. I don't even know if there's a property ombudsman. It just sounded like the right thing to say. I was like, I will speak to them about this because this clearly isn't right. And they were like, yeah, just go through the TDS. Like, there's a chance in their arm. I fucking love it. But the thing is, though, is if I was thick enough to be like, oh, well, they've said we can't have deposits back because of carpets, then in my head, if somebody came along and was like, I am a sovereign citizen and I do not consent to the laws in which you are bound by carpets, I'd be like, well, this seems quite promising. Do you know what I mean? The way that they can string sentences together is awfully impressive. Do you know what I mean?
These will argue my point in court.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't won yet, but that's because they haven't come across my carpet case. So I can only think that they just prey off idiots.
Yeah, and you know, it's very conspiracy theorist-y.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
So it's like there's a lot of crossover there, you know what I mean? So it's people that are...
It's going to be one of those, is it?
Type of...
My right honourable learned friend, first of all, this man is a freeman of the land and is not consenting to your laws. And secondly, 9/11 didn't happen. Don't get me started on the Holocaust. Anyway, it's like, oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, sweet. Right, we're done with this now. If you've listened to this, by the way, and you are a freeman of the land, or you are a fucking sovereign citizen, or a Magna Carta, I do not consent because my name is a fictional name of the fictitious character in which I hold. Any of that fucking nonsense. Sorry, well-informed legal debate. Any of that stuff, and you're watching this and you're going, we've got it completely wrong, tell me in the YouTube comments to this video. Please tell me, because I would love to see what bit of this I have missed, because for the life of me, it's absolute fucking horseshit. Before we go, is there anything that you would like to plug? You've got a podcast yourself, haven't you? A legal podcast. If people have enjoyed this, then I would imagine that they'd enjoy the sort of stuff that you do. What's your pod again?
It's called Barely Legal.
And I have to say, as an avid listener, incredibly disappointed the first time I listened to it. Incredibly.
That's what we want.
I thought this was going to be 18-year-old girls gone wild. And instead it's two middle-aged men debating on fucking... debating the Magna Carta.
Yeah.
What was the last episode you released? What was that about?
It was about a case. Oh, you've put me on the spot now. It was. We're basically starting again. We're charting the entirety of criminal law.
Oh, okay.
So we're right at the start. We're doing about actus reus and so on. So we're teaching people about this the concepts of the law. So the idea is that you listen to the podcast and you'll be the equivalent of having done first year at university, basically.
I would. Oh, right. So that's so. In my head, the first one that you always do. I don't know why I know this, but isn't the first one something about a restaurant that served a woman food with some glass in it? Or no, it was a drink with some shit in it. With a snail in it.
Donahue and Stevenson is the
drink
case.
with a snail in it.
Yeah.
What a fucking touch that is.
Yeah.
How did no one recognise that when that was coming out? Like,
I know.
Oh, there appears to be a snail in that rum and coke. Like a literal...
It was in the bottle. It was like a brown bottle, so you couldn't see it. And it's like she poured it out, tasted it, went, oh, this isn't very nice. And then on closer inspection, there was a snail in there.
Really?
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
I mean, that's under civil law, that. So we're thinking we've not done that. But yeah, Donahue and Stevenson is one of the big...
That's one of the first
cases.
ones, isn't it? That's
Yeah,
one of the first fucking ones that everyone learns about and listens to. And I don't know why I know it. It just rattles about in my head somewhere. And it's about like corporate responsibility and shit like that.
Yeah.
It's dead interesting.
Well remembered.
So if you... mate, it's up here. It's in here. It's just jumbled around like fuck. It is jumbled. So if you enjoy that sort of stuff, check out Burley Legal Podcast. Yeah. Probably best off not Googling it outright.
It's on all the podcast places. You'll get to it.
Have you checked to see that there's no other Burley Legal Podcast? Because I do feel like it's the sort of thing that Pornhub...
There's one in America, which is two guys talking about the law, two lawyers.
Right, okay.
But it's American law, so it's
I feel like
different.
it's just like two teenage fucking porn actresses crying about how much their fannies are. Do you know what I mean?
I've had a look for that. I can't see any competition in that regard.
Okay, because it's a great name. It's one of those names that you think about it and you go, someone's beat me to this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
But they've not, I don't think, so we're all right.
Barely Legal Podcast with yourself and Alex Boardman,
Yeah.
and you can find it on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube.
Yeah, no, not yet. We will be on YouTube.
Get yourself on YouTube as well. It's a great podcast. You'll enjoy it very much. And if you've enjoyed this, then that's the kind of thing that their podcasts do. Give it a listen and add it to your sort of weekly round of podcast listenings too. Also as well, if you have enjoyed this, become a Patreon, please, so that we can keep the lights on and stuff. We're going to go away now. There's going to be another episode of Pigoted Extra just for Patreons only. We will see you next week. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
This podcast has been sponsored by Outlier Distillery. They are the makers of the fantastic Hooley Manx White Rum, which is available right now on the Outlier Distillery website for just 34 quid. And there's an extra discount code for everyone that listens to this podcast. Just enter Pigoted at checkout and you get yourself 20% off. Now, this was a company that was actually started in lockdown, and they make some fantastic drinks. I am a huge fan of this Hooley Manx White Rum. As you can see, I've drunk nearly most of it already. It's a really strong flavour and it goes great in cocktails and daiquiris and rum and cokes. So if you are a big drinker, if you're a fan of alcohol and you like white rum, then get yourself down to Outlier Distillery's website and get your code 20% off by entering Pigoted at checkout. This episode of Pigoted Podcast was sponsored by Taylor's Toys. Now, for OG listeners of the show, you'll know Taylor's Toys. They've been sponsoring us since the beginning. They are a sex toy company that specialise in making high quality produce, like you grow it. You know, they make good products that don't fall apart after a couple of uses, but they're at decent, reasonable prices as well. You can head over to taylorstoys.co.uk right now, check out the amazing range that they've got on offer, and if you enter the discount code PIGOTED at checkout, you get 20% off and you get free delivery on orders over £25. It is a fantastic thing to do, especially with Valentine's Day just round the corner. Head yourself over to taylorstoys.co.uk and spice some things up in the bedroom.